everyone, it's Rachel with Rachel's Super Cute Creations, and I'm going to show you today how to make a hardcover journal. And so what I did is I started with, what we're going to do is we're going to start with an 8.5 by 11 piece of medium weight chipboard, and I just ordered this from Amazon. You can get it pretty much anywhere, but it is 8.5 by 11, and it is natural, medium weight. I get 25 sheets of 8.5 by 11. Okay, so we're going to start by just cutting this in half, which ends up with a 5.5 inch wide piece. So you get two 5.5 inch wide pieces. So it's 5.5 by 8.5. Okay, and then you need to take a second piece and you need to cut your spine. Decide how wide you want your spine. So you could have a 2 inch, or this is a 1.5 inch. In this case, we're going to do a 2 inch because this is going to be a pretty chunky journal. And basically, we're going to just put these three pieces together to make this book. I'm going to use fabric because fabric is more flexible. It doesn't crack. Sometimes cardstock will crack over time. And so I am just using a piece of muslin. So I'm just laying out this piece of muslin here. And then I'm going to line up my cardboard pieces. And the muslin is just about 3/4 of an inch wider on each side. So I cut it at approximately 9 3/4 the fabric itself, and it's about 12 3/4 wide. You don't have to be specific about that. Just make sure it's wider and longer than your piece. And so then what you want to do is you want to leave about 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch in between here, so that your spine has, so your cover has room to move. I'm going to be using this clear tacky glue today by Eileen's, and I use the regular or this one. You want a pretty hearty amount of glue, and you want to make sure that you're getting it all over. So you can use a brush, you can use your finger. I'm just going to use my finger to spread it today. And making sure that all the edges are covered well. Because we're using muslin, it will seep through a little bit on the other side. But it is a clear glue, so it will dry. So I'm going to go ahead and put my first piece down. And as I'm putting that down, I'm just going to pull the fabric a little bit to make sure we don't have wrinkles. And I'm going to press it down really well. If you want to iron your muslin first, you can. I don't worry about that because I always seem to cover mine. And I don't mind that look. But if you don't want those wrinkles, take it to the ironing board, iron that up. So this cover is going to be for a boho journal. There is a kit that I'm going to be releasing in May. But I wanted to create this tutorial because a lot of people are wondering, how do you make hardcover journals? So this will be, hopefully you'll like this. If you like it, give me a thumbs up. Here I am leaving that. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit for you. See, I'm just leaving about 1/4 or 1/8 of an inch, pressing this down really well. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and glue this one. I do cover the inside of the journal as well. So we're going to put a piece on the inside. So I'm just making sure that I'm just really getting this glue everywhere. You want to make sure, and the chipboard will suck up the glue a little bit, not a whole lot. This is medium weight chipboard, so it gives it a nice firm, it's not quite as thick as like a golden book, but it's much thicker than just a regular lightweight, like if you've been using food packaging or something like that. It's much thicker than that. But you can still use your awl to get through it and bind it. Oops. Without a problem. And for those of you that have a crocodile and you want to put a little hole on the end to put a charm or something like that, it definitely works for that. Now, because I've used so much liquid glue, it is starting to curl a little bit, so just kind of bend it back a little. It'll dry fine, and you'll be able to adjust it a little bit. So now we have our book, and it's going to be a pretty nice size book, but there's some things we need to do. Notice that you want to make sure that your spaces on both sides are equal. I need to pull this up because I needed to get just a smidge closer. There we go. All right. Now what we're going to be doing is we're going to take our scissors and we're going to cut the corners so that we can fold these corners in. So I'm just cutting the corners because we're going to fold them in and wrap this book. And I'm going to cut just a little bit off of here because I didn't center it as nicely as I would have wanted to. And I'm going to come down here and see we got a little close down here, but that's all right. All right. So I'm going to start with the sides first. And I turn this, you don't have to, but it's just for me, easier for me to work. So I'm just putting glue down. And I'm pulling and wrapping this fabric. And I'm just really pushing it down. And then you want to make sure on this corner right here that you get some glue because that's where you're going to be wrapping back over. All right, so I'm going to do this side. Pull it, push it down. Put some glue right here, and now I'm going across here because we are going to do the long sides. So we'll start with the top. And I'm going to tuck that in and pull this down. All right. And I'm just pulling down, getting it nice and taut. Make sure you get plenty of glue. You want this fabric to lay down. And fabric does stretch when you put the glue on, so you just really have to work it. These edges down. We are going to cover this, so don't worry too much about that. All right, I'm going to go ahead and flip it. And because this side is a little bit narrower than I would have liked, I'm going to work that side first. So I'm just pushing this down. There we go. Just really getting a good seal. Okay, so this is what the other side looks like. It does need to dry But you can see we have a very nice start to our book, our journal cover. We now need to go in and we need to cover the inside. So I have just taken a piece of muslin and I've just made it a little bit smaller, and I ripped it. I did not cut it. I like these edges. And so we're going to go ahead and we're going to lay this down. All right. So, and you don't have to do this. You can use paper. I'm going to, let's see, how do I want to do this? Come down like this. I'm going to go just around the edges first, and then I will go ahead and fill back in where I need to. But we are, I don't know if you can hear that, we're having a sleet storm here. All right, so I am just going to get this smoothed out. Make sure that I have lots of glue down here. And then the last thing that I want to do is I want to put glue in both of these crevices because we're actually going to push the fabric down in there. So I'm just putting glue in there and we're going to lay this down. All right. So I'm just kind of lining it up where I need it. And then I'm just going to smooth it out. Keep pressing from the center out. If you press this way, you're going to end up with wrinkles. So always press from your center out. And then I take my bone folding tool and I go down that crease because I really want the fabric to get in there, because that's where you're going to be folding your book. And so you want to make sure that you have the room. You don't want it too tight or your book's not going to fold well. So right now, because the glue and the fabric are pliable, I'm making that happen. And so now we have this gorgeous fold. Look at that. It will dry. You won't see all of this wet glue because it will dry clear. I recommend that you let it set at least 5 hours. Don't work on it until it's completely dry. And now you have a hardcover journal that is just like a book. And it is absolutely beautiful. It's fabric covered. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to Rachel's Super Cute Creations. And please check out my May kit that's going to be coming out, which is a boho theme. And we're going to be using this base to make the gorgeous boho kit. Have a great day, everybody.